Kegs. They're the often overlooked part of getting beer from the brewery to the venue, to the taps and to your lips. I sat down with Mary Ann from Konvoy to shed some light on these metal cylinders that play such an integral role in the world of beer.
Thanks for coming and chatting to us. So Konvoy Kegs, like it's essentially like a little backroom thing, isn't it? Like they're not really a display item. What's so cool about Konvoy Kegs?
Yeah, I mean, kegs, very important. They're an important part of, like, I guess, the supply chain when it comes to, I actually said this to somebody the other day when we were brewing. We did a Pink Boots Brewery Day at Four Pines, and they, oh, so your kegs? And I'm like, yeah, you know, so we're not really sort of the important part of someone's mind. And they're like, actually, you're very important, because without the kegs, we can't get the beers out. And if we don't get the beers out, people aren't drinking. And then, you know, so it really is. And I was like, oh, that actually makes me feel better. I guess when we go to things, everyone's sort of talking about their beers and what they're doing, and then, you know, we're just that stainless steel.
We've got kegs, guys.
Yeah, we have kegs. But it turns out, you know, no, people, they really do see that as an important part of their supply chain. It's just sometimes they forget about us and it's a last minute order kind of a thing, but that's okay. We always make it happen. I love it. I love the kegs that we have, because I guess we're changing it up in the industry. We've got the tracking happening. We're really sort of investing a lot of money to make this tracking technology really work. We wanted to change things up in the way that pooling has been done in the past, and really sort of make it just easy. Set and forget. You know, you place your order, we deliver kegs, you don't have to do anything else. Like, you literally, we deliver them, you clean them, you fill them, you send them, the rest is on us. We wanted to make it as simple and least headache possible for our customers, and I think we've really achieved that.
Yeah, cool. So the tracking thing, I know what they are. They're the big bulky black thing.
Yep.
Sits on the side that breaks your knuckles when you try and roll them.
Yep.
Through your cold room.
There is a new version coming out. There is a new version.
Because I reckon heaps of brewers would know, and they would know what I'm talking about. Like when you're rolling your keg along and you smack it on the, oh man, it hurts. But what does it actually do? Like, what's it reading? Is it just reading my keg's cold?
No, so it does a variety of things. There's a lot it can do. The main ones that I guess the customers want to know, and for us as well, is when it's at warehouse, when it leaves warehouse and goes to a brewery, when it's being cleaned, the temperature of that, where it then moves on to. So the next level of where it goes, and also the temperature that it's being kept at when it's moving through the supply chain. Yeah, okay. Queensland tends to be one of the places where we get a lot of people who will say, hey, well, not a lot, but, you know, we get a request of, can you check this particular keg for me? Because the venue has said there's something wrong with the beer. And then you kind of go through it and you're like, that's because
they kept the temperature variables.
They kept it outside for a week, and it went from this to this, and then they brought it back into storage, and then they tapped it down here, and I think that information is really important, you know, especially if you're paying for cold storage as an example.
And cold logistics and stuff.
But you know, what's a venue doing to your beer, and I guess if a venue is leaving your beer and it's getting to a particular temperature, and then they're serving that, customers are then, you know, maybe judging your beer not at its best, and not through any fault of you, but because of what's happened outside once it's left your brewery. So it's that kind of information. But then it also sort of allows us to go to places and find the kegs. And so, you know, we might call a venue and they'll be like, oh no, we don't have any of these kegs. And we're like, yeah, they're pinging there. Oh, are you for red ones? Yeah. Oh yeah, we've got 20 of those. Do you want them? Yeah, we'd like them back. It is cool when you call a venue and they're like, how do you know? It has a beacon on them. The best story was in New Zealand. A couple of people had a big night out, and the publican sent us a video of our kegs going walkabouts, and then because you could then figure out which kegs were at that venue because of the movements, and then you could see them pinging at the person's house down the road, and it's like they just got drunk, picked up a couple of kegs, and then took them home. They kept pinging, and I was like, oh, I don't know if we want to go that far of knocking on someone's door, but it was really cool. We could still see where it was. I don't know what they ended up doing, but it was just funny seeing the video and then being able to track it, and then tracking it to the exact address that it was sitting at. So as long as there's low frequency Wi-Fi, we're good. But we are working on a new technology. We've recently acquired another company, but basically they also were doing very similar things. They're now joining sort of part of what we're doing. And then that's expanding even further. I spoke to one of our guys and he was showing me something different to what I thought we were moving on to. So every day it's evolving and every day it's something different, and this was going to be using a different pinpoint, I guess, in the way that they were going to be doing it. So I'm really excited as to what's coming. So that was version 1, and it was new, and it was the first, like, we're the first to have done it.
Yep.
And so, it obviously has its little teething stuff.
Yeah.
We're learning as the customers sort of tell us, and then from there we've just gone and created a second and went, actually, no, we're going to maybe not even look at that now, and we're already on version 3 before version 2 even came out.
Oh yeah, right.
We're just evolving, like, as we're kind of listening to what customers are telling us they want, and as different people, and we're looking at doing it internationally as well. So we want to make sure we've got a product that's going to work everywhere.
Yeah.
And given that we've just recently started in Europe as well, in the UK, we've just got to make sure we've got one system that is going to please everyone, and it's the one thing that, and we don't want any more people getting, their knuckles wrapped into that big old, so this is going to be completely different. It'll sit more inside the chime. It's a little bit thicker than version 2, but it's flatter, so it's pretty awesome.
This interview break brought to you by our friends at Konvoy.
Beer comes with hops, and when do we use them? So, old school brewing, well, not even really old school, it was pretty recently still, but with the launch of hazies and things like that, everyone's using hops a lot differently now, but traditionally what they really used was, if you used dry hop at all, it was very, very minimal. There wasn't a lot of hop utilised at all. It's like if you were doing 3 grams per litre of hops, that was like exciting and a lot. Nowadays, some brewers are pushing 15, 20, all sorts of different high volume of hops into a beer. Now, what does all that mean? So, when you brew beer, you need hops to add bitterness, and to do that, you generally add that at different times in the boil, and you add it at different times in the boil because it will extract. So the longer that these things sitting in the hot wort as they're boiling, the more oils and that you'll extract. But it doesn't necessarily mean that if you throw them all in at the start, you're going to extract more. So they're going to extract out pretty quickly, but it just more depends on how much volatility of that bitterness you want in your beer. So different beers, think of things like 4X bitter, VB bitter and things like that. They use what's called iso hop, and so they are just injected into the beer pretty much after it's fermented, and they get that balance of bitterness using the iso hop that they add to the beer after it's all fermented and it's going into bright. So they have a machine, obviously they're big ass breweries, they push it in, and that's when it adds the bitterness, because that's how they get their product with such a huge brewery and consistency of millions and millions of litres every year to pump out like that. Us craft brewers, we don't like doing that. We like to be crafty, we like to have that nuance, we like to do it what we want. So we add these hops, and we generally design a recipe. We add the hops at the start of the boil to get that little bit of bitterness in there that we want. And it's different hops do different things in the boil. You don't always want certain hops to be used for bitterness. Some hops just aren't nice bittering, and some hops are great. Wrong one.
So you obviously have to buy new kegs. What's the, like, does it track the life per se? Like, is there so many refills and unrefilled, like empties? Like, does it refill and empty? Is there so much life to a keg, or is it just keeps going?
Well, kegs have like a 30-year life cycle to them, so they're pretty sturdy little things. And then we obviously will refurb them. They say every sort of 7 years, but our kegs consistently go through services anyway. So if somebody says, look, we've got a seal issue, or we think there might be an issue with that, we get people to put a big queue on them, send them back. We get them down to services. They'll basically pull that whole keg apart, pressure test it, clean it, refurb the whole thing, and then put it back on the market again. We're one of the only ones that can do that in Australia at the moment.
Like, is it like a thing that like one person does it as a side job, or there's just enough to do all the time that there's a whole department that?
Oh no, it's a company of its own, Konvoy Services. That's all they do, but they don't just do it for us as well. So they do it for customers who have their own kegs, who manage their own fleets. We also sell kegs, so they do that kind of side of things as well. So they do the selling of kegs, and they hold everything there, because we get to offer people a bit of everything. So we're not just kind of going, you can only do rentals through us. It's like, well, no, if you need to buy your own fleet, we encourage that as well. If you want to manage your own, then, great.
If you're not selling out to wholesale, what do you need to rent kegs for?
So we've got the 3 offerings is rentals, leasing, cash flow side. If you can't actually buy them, we can lease them to you, and then the purchaser side, which you can come through us or straight through servicing, and they do. So it's a big old warehouse in Dandenong, and it's pretty impressive to see the different parts changing the spears, the way that they do like the silk screen printing and stuff like. So I love going there. I've been there a few times, but every time I go, I'm like, what do you guys got on now? Like, let's go through here. And the equipment's just so massive, and then you're dunking something here, and can you see the bubbles there? And taking notes. And forget next time I come over, but I'm taking notes anyway. But it's brilliant. I love it.
So obviously, like a lot of breweries use 50s. What other sizes are there? I know you can get 30s, but do you guys do 20s or 10s or anything, or where does it stop?
Majority of ours is just the two, so the 50s and the 30s. Somebody messaged me and they wanted to order, I think it was like 80 to 30 litres, and I was like, no, I don't have them at the moment. And he said, oh, don't you know 30s is the new 50s? And I was like, oh, is that a thing? Like, is this real? And I think I was having one of those moments, and I actually thought that I was like Carrie from Sex and the City, and I was like, I'm just going to blog an email out to everybody. I'm just going to write it in this really cool, I don't know, like somewhere in there I thought I was really cool. But it was the one email that I have sent that I had 70% response rate to brewers. Or I was like, what? People actually want to tell me about this stuff. And it was amazing, the amount of feedback that I got for it. And it turns out like 30 litres is a thing. We got on it pretty quickly and got containers ordered. They got here and then they literally flew out the door. Wow. So I think we'll probably be needing more. And it's, for high ABV stuff, OH&S side of things as well.
For the lifting component.
And they're also kind of, the reason that they, the feedback we're getting is the 50 litres can be quite big for some, but the 30 litres is just the right amount as opposed to going from a 50 to a 20. So we haven't gone down the 20 route. And even asking a follow-up to that email was, would you look at 20s? Most people, we had maybe a few people that were like, yeah, look, 20s would probably work best for us, but majority were like, nah, we're good with the 30s. And it's a small enough vessel that's not taking away from a 50, and the price point still works well.
Yeah, cool.
This interview break brought to you by our friends at Bintani.
And we're back. I nearly drank out of this, so if you've ever been offered one of these to eat, don't do it. It's really, really bitter. And the reason for that is all the alpha acids and the oils that are in there, they attack your face. So this is not a lot of hops needed to bitter a beer. You add that early on in the boil. So generally in the boil goes for about normally 60 to 75 minutes, depending on your brew kit. But you generally add these in about the first 10-15 minutes. Sometimes though now with the new boil hops, that boil is getting less and less of the amount of hops that you add in for bitterness, and it's also getting later and later in the boil, because what happens is when the hops go into the hot wort, oils come out pretty quickly, and the brewer needs to balance that bitterness that he wants. So things like all your hazy, juicy beers that you don't want a lot of bitterness in that, you want that really nice, cloudy, puffy, big mouthfeel, which they do with the malt. But the bitterness, they don't want a lot of bitterness in there. They just need something to hold up that structure. But then after that, they use the dry hops. So a lot of the hops they take out of the boil, and they don't take it out physically, but they take the hops volume out that they usually would add, and they put that into the dry hop with the big juicy hops. So that's where you get the juicy hops that are coming. So sometimes you're gonna add hops like 2 days into ferment, and then again at 4 days. And that's when you get double dry hop beers, or DDH, as a lot of people you know. What is it? It's not that exciting, it's just a marketing term. You would have heard Charlie talk about it in the first episode. So anyway, yeah, that's how you get hop flavour into beer, both bitterness, flavour and aroma. So, pretty cool. What's fun about Konvoy? Like, is there fun?
I think it's the people. The people I work with are amazing. Like, we've got a really good culture. Like, everyone like we all just work together really well, and everyone sort of gets together and everyone chips in. We all want to know what's going on, and we're all invested into, you know, kind of making our business be the way it is, and, you know, the brand the way it is, and we love what we do. And so like wherever you'll see us, like we're always having a great time, and it's not a show that, you know, oh, we'll pretend we like each other. We actually genuinely like love working with one another.
Yeah, so recently we were at the Indies party up here for Queensland, but I know you guys down in Sydney, you throw a big party.
We did the WA one as well this year.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So supporting the industry like that is really cool. Is that just for, obviously it's for business, like it's marketing and business wise as well, but it's also because you want to be in the industry and be seen as that.
We want to be there with our customers. Like we basically want to partner. So we want to make sure that you're growing. If you grow, we grow. We want to make sure that everyone is actually on board and achieving what they want. And we don't want to be the people to not make that happen.
Yeah.
So, you know, but we genuinely want to see everybody succeeding. You know, and that's from the top down. Like, you know, we don't even really have I say this from the top down only because I see them as management, but we don't really even have that structure. Like you come to our office and no one has a separate office. Like Adam sits in with the team. You know, our CEO, we've got a new CEO starting, he's going to be sitting in with, like, we're all on the same floor, we're all in the same office, like it's an open space. No one has like their own private office because I'm, you know, management and whatnot. No, that's not a thing for us. You know, you can walk in and ask a question to just about anybody and everyone's available to respond to that. But they also, everybody wants to know about the customers. What's the customers going through? What can we do to help? You know, how do we help the industry? So whether it be something like what you guys have created, or you know, whether it be for a Pink Boots event, whether it be, you know, for somebody that's just starting out, like it's an industry we all love. Like everyone's been in the industry, like all the founders have been in the industry for forever. Nick has been, he had a brewery, so he's been through all that. Adam, just, you know, same thing, he still does. Like the fact that we're already in, or they've already been in the industry, and now to sort of branch out and just be there to support everyone, especially as we come out of COVID. Look, it was good to see that people were still around and still sort of surviving what happened, and it was a shit time for just about everybody. I mean, it was even for us, right? We get kegs out there.
No one's allowed to open their bars or venues.
Exactly. So
kegs aren't really,
you know, and we did recently also do a thing to get kegs back and empty them. We do charge an empty fee, but there was so much stock that was being held there for customers, and it was going to cost a fortune. We're just like, you know what, just get them back to us. We're doing it over a period of this month. Get your kegs back, we'll empty them, we'll get them back in trade, and you don't have to pay for it. And so many customers were like, oh, thanks so much for helping us out on that. Because the sheer cost of it is,
it's all right, like, because you don't realise how many kegs a brewery needs until you start putting it into beer. But like 1,000 litre brew, that's like 20 kegs. And that's 3 pallets.
But then having dumped that at like $14 a keg. And the less you have to do that, and we can help out with that, then that money is focusing back on what you do best. And then it just, the kegs are going to come back anyway, right? So that money goes back into brewing. And you get the kegs, and then we're getting fresh beers out. Like it's a great industry to be in. I love it. I love all the customers. I love traveling. I'm always up here
on the road.
I always kind of feel like I might need to move to Queensland.
Awesome. Well, thanks heaps for coming and chatting to us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Also, thank you for sponsoring us and helping us out as well. Like it's, as you said before, it's that symbiotic relationship. We all help each other. It's cool. That's what we enjoy about the industry. It's why we started this podcast. But
I love it. That's happy to be on board with you guys.
And thanks to Lee. Lee's not here, but we're at White Lies in Sumner Park at the moment. But thanks to Lee here at White Lies for us enjoying his Hazy Craze beer. And all right.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.